Hi, this is Dan Abbott. I teach at Southern Maine Community College, and most of my videos on this channel are actually videos from my classes. They're instructional. This one's just going to be for fun. August 8th, I decided to do a tour on my boat of the entire Casco Bay and invited my friend Dave Pratt, who retired from Southern Maine Community College a few years ago after teaching computer tech, actually developing the computer tech program there over the years, and having taught photography for a while. My reason for inviting him is that I like spending time with him on a boat. He's incredibly experienced nautically, but he's also an excellent videographer, and he has a drone with a video camera, and he's got a GoPro, and I decided I'd like to document this little trip around Casco Bay, so I asked him to come with me. What you're looking at over here is over here to me, is a nautical chart of Casco Bay, which is in southern Maine. Portland is on Casco Bay. We bring that up a little bit. The entire Casco Bay goes from Cape Elizabeth Light to Small Point and encompasses this entire area, often known as the Calendar Islands because there are so many of them, although there are not 365, no matter what anyone says. There's 186 that have names, a bunch of rocks and ledges and other things that sometimes stick up out of the water. Portland on the nautical chart is right there. More importantly to me is over here in Spring Point is Southern Maine Community College. We have 60 acres right there. Have a lighthouse on campus. Have a beach. That beach is a sand beach. It's called Willard Beach. A couple other little beaches on campus that are a little bit gravelly but pretty nice places. Boat ramp right here next to Bug Light, and that boat ramp is where this whole thing is going to start. And what we did was left Bug Light, went down past Spring Point Light, went out to Portland Head Light, which is here, looked down at Cape Elizabeth Light, which is sometimes referred to as two lights because at one time there were two working lighthouses there. Now, well, here's Cape Elizabeth Light. Now there's only one, and the other one's been converted into a house. So we went down to Portland Head Light, looked down at the other end of Casco Bay, came all the way across the middle of the bay, and we came across the middle of the bay to something called Halfway Rock. It's approximately halfway across Casco Bay, which is why it's called Halfway Rock. From there we went over to Small Point, Bald Head. We went right in here, looked over at Fuller Rock, and then went around the corner. Kind of went past went up into Small Point Harbor, came down through here, and then went up the New Meadows River. Going up the New Meadows River, took a little detour into the basin, which is a beautiful hurricane hole. Came back out. Came up and stopped just north of Winnegans Bay to look at a house that somebody that David knows owns. I can't remember what that was about. And we came up through. We didn't go all the way up into middle ground. Instead, we went through Gurnett Straits. Right about here where there is 2 feet of water showing, we found out that 2 feet is at low tide, not necessarily dead low, lower than normal. You'll see in the video what I'm talking about. Gurnett Strait's really interesting. On one side of the bridge is 19 feet, on the other side is 90. When the tide's really running, it can be kind of exciting. And the tide was not running. We're at dead low. Came across, you want to avoid coming down into, what is that called? Doughty Cove. Anyway, we're going down Long Reach, which is down through here. At one time, Long Reach had a whole series of, well, saplings basically stuck in the ground, stuck in the mud, showing where that channel goes. It's a tricky channel, especially, well, even at low tide, but especially at high tide to figure out where you are. Although at high tide you can get down through there pretty easily. We're coming down Long Reach, going back around here to another Doughty Point. Oh, Doughty Cove. I don't know who Doughty was. Anyway, down through here, Prince Gurnett, and we got back down here and went down into Harpswell Sound under the big fixed bridge, and then around through to this little spot. And that little spot right there is Gun Point. Went under Gun Point Bridge, came down to Gun Point Cove, all the way down around the back side of Orr's Island, or I suppose the east side of Orr's Island. And then we went through Will's Gut under the Cribbswork Bridge, which connects Orr's Island and Bailey Island. series of granite slabs that are stacked on top of each other dry. Really nice bridge. Came back out, went down Hartswell Sound again, went through an area that doesn't have a name on the chart, but a lot of people refer to it as a snake pit, mostly because it's kind of a serpentine to get through there. Have to be careful going through there. It's really easy to go over the rocks because you're looking at buoys and misunderstanding which one is the next one. Came up into Potts Harbor, grabbed a mooring, had lunch, came back out, went up the inside of Whaleboat Island, which is a kind of interesting. There's a measured 1 nautical mile that people used to use to check and see what speed they were going at different RPMs with their boats. I don't think anyone does that anymore because they've got a GPS instead. Came up into Middle Bay. We came past Mere Point Bay, looked up in, went to McQuoit Bay and looked up in there as well. Although I was initially planning to go up the Harrisecret River up into Falmouth or Freeport, South Freeport, and then come back out and then go down and go up the Royal River to Yarmouth. We decided not to do that on this trip. So we went past Upper Goose Island. Then we came down through between Goose Island and Bustons. There is French's there too. Then came back down through, went across the north end of Great Chebeague, came down between Great Chebeague and Bangs Island, and came down through between Cliff Island and Stave, and Ministerial and Bates. And then came down to that little pinch point right there, and then went between Jewel Island and Cliff. Jewel Island has a little place called Cocktail Cove, which used to be a lot of fun to go into, but it's just jammed with boats now. So came down through. Originally I was planning on going up through Chandler Cove, or kind of past Chandler Cove, and then back down through, but instead we decided to go from Cliff and go all the way down to Peaks, go through Hussey Sound, and then pass between Pumpkin Knob and Peaks Island. I just always do that. I just get a kick out of it. Pumpkin Knob is really the sweetest island in Casco Bay, in my opinion. Some people would say pound of tea, but I like Pumpkin Knob. Came down through Diamond Island Pass, Diamond Island Roads, and then when we were done, came back to the boat ramp. So I'm going to show the video now that include the video that David made, starting with a drone shot from above, and I'm going to have a few comments to make as we go. So let me flip over to the video, and off we go. This is a shot of Bug Light. Bug Light is right there. It's really Portland breakwater light. David had a drone with a camera on it. And it's funny because I didn't realize he brought his drone with him. He's standing right there running his drone. I started backing my boat down and wondering why David wasn't coming down to help me get the boat off, grab some lines, but he didn't. So I did what I've done hundreds of times. I did it myself. Came over here, and I have to say I'm really glad to have this shot. I've never seen myself back a trailer down. So I came over, grabbed some lines, and this is what I always do, tie them off, a little bit of slack before I get the boat down where it's floating. And then I'll back it down a little bit. Sometimes I make an adjustment, sometimes I don't. And here what I'm trying to do is trying to shake the boat off the trailer, which happened right there. So now I can get the boat. Well, I guess it didn't quite happen right there, so I'll pull the trailer out from under it. Now I'm going to bring the boat back down to the other end of the float to get out of the way. Notice there are 3 ensigns here. There's another one up front. One of them is the State of Maine official maritime ensign. Only Maine and Massachusetts have one. It's got a fir tree, an anchor, the word Dirigo, and the word Maine. The national ensign, which is the American flag, and the Canadian ensign, which is because my wife's parents come from Canada. Now we're underway. We are stand-on to that vessel you see over there, and that vessel finally did give way. The ensign we have up here is the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary Member Ensign. One of my favorite shots here. Going over the wake of this lobster boat. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary Member Ensign is something I'm flying despite the fact that I retired last year after 23 years using this boat and another boat as operational facilities to assist the Coast Guard in safety zones and training and safety patrols, search and rescue, mostly training. Now we went to Portland Head, that's what we looked at before, and now we're headed out to Halfway Rock. Halfway Rock is just one of my favorite places in Casco Bay. I try to go out there every time I go out. This was without question the fastest I've ever been going on the way out there. We were doing about 24, 25 knots here. That's not the top speed of the boat, but it's fast enough for me. Halfway Rock is really beautiful and kind of desolate. It's also covered with hundreds of seals. That's what we're looking at right there. You'll see my hand come in here in a minute and point to them. This island is now owned by a Portland attorney named Ford Reike, who has rehabbed the buildings. The light itself is maintained by the Coast Guard. Many of the lighthouses, anyway, have been purchased by private owners or by organizations or foundations. Now we end up over near Bald Head. Actually, Bald Head's over on our right. Small point area, and came down through here before turning left and going up through the New Meadows River. This is the New Meadows River. Not nearly as many lobster pots as I've seen in the past, but there are definitely lobster pots up through there. We are going kind of slow because there are other boats around and I didn't want to wake them. We don't have much wind, however, still. This is the basin that's right off of the New Meadows River, and we tucked in there because David likes it and I like it. And interesting, David knows of somebody who hit those rocks right there at high tide because he kind of held a little tight turn with his sailboat coming out. I've never noticed them before because I have a small enough boat I don't have to worry too much about it, although it is a little shallow up in the basin. After we got done with the basin, we came back out into the New Meadows River. It's not shallow in the whole basin, but there are places you really have to kind of pay attention to. One nice thing about the basin, if you're ever up there, besides the fact that it's a hurricane hole and really is protected, the water tends to be fairly warm for swimming. So we're back in the New Meadows River now, still going north. David knows somebody who lives in that house, and we were hoping to rouse them and have them come down and wave at us so we could film them, and just because we thought it would be fun. The person wasn't home, however, so hung around, but you can see that there was no wind at all. It was a gorgeous, gorgeous day. Beautiful sky full of clouds. Warm day, not too warm, very little wind. Water was really, really calm. The boat's a Maritime Skiff, by the way, 20 foot. Yeah, here is what happened when we went up to the Gurnett and going about 4 knots, just cruising along. And one of us was driving and hit something and took all 4 blades off my 4-blade prop. Now the reason that it happened is because the reason it took all 4 blades off is because that is a composite prop, which I always run because I don't want to shock load the lower unit if I happen to hit something with my stainless prop, so that's a spare. I have another composite prop that's also a spare, and that's the one I put on once I got that stubborn cotter pin out of there. So this is just not too far above where we just were once we got ourselves back in deep water and had a new prop on. David timed it, by the way. It took about 10 minutes. If you don't have a spare prop and you own a boat, I think you ought to have one, but it's up to you, but good luck if you don't. An airboat going down through, and that one did not care what the water depth was because it's able to go in extremely skinny water. What a noisy boat, though. I don't think I could stand being on it. Right now, especially, we got a Yamaha 4-stroke, and you're barely aware that the motor's running. Coming up through a no-wake zone because there's a little mooring area up there. That bridge is Gurnett Strait, and we're on the side that's what I said, 18 feet deep, 19 feet deep. This is the wake from that boat, by the way, which means you can see it barely kicks up a wake, and they were probably going close to 30 knots through there. So they weren't kicking up a wake though, so they were doing fine, although I don't know if it's a no wake zone or a clutch speed zone. You can see though, even the boats that are moored were barely affected by that airboat going through. Up on the right, there's a boat ramp that's like the scariest looking boat ramp I've ever seen. It appears to be only covered at almost high tide. I guess it would be helpful or useful if you live nearby to get a boat in and out. I don't think I'd dare to back my trailer down there for fear of having a parking brake failure and never seeing either my boat or my trailer again. Anyway, this is a side just 19 feet. We're going to go under there, and we're going over to Long Reach at this point. Long Reach is the area that comes all the way down into Hartswell Sound. Interesting up here. Maybe I'll get that cursor out of your way. when you go up there, if you make an immediate left turn, and I was with somebody one time who, despite what appeared to be a bad decision based on the chart, insisted on going down there, and we had to end up waiting for the tide to come in on that one as well. It wasn't my boat or me driving, I will say at this point. Long Reach, it's up around that point right there. Again, if you turn down, this is something easy to do if you're not paying too much attention. It looks like, oh yeah, you turn down, it looks like that would go forever, but it doesn't. In fact, I'm going to turn down. I think I'm showing David that it looks like it would go forever, but it doesn't. Anyway, that's not the place you want to go. Instead, we're going to turn the bow back, and we're going up around that point right there, and then we're going to go down the Long Reach. The Long Reach, which is beautiful. I highly recommend it, except for the fact that it is pretty shallow in places, and they are no longer putting those saplings in. So you really have to pay attention to your depth sounder, and you have to pay attention to your GPS a little bit, and hope that there's going to be a lobster pot or two to give you a sense that there might be some deep water. We're not going to hit those rocks, obviously, because at low tide we can see them. But it's a lot of silt and mud down there that without a whole lot of water over it. Kind of cool that some people who people live along the river. It's not a river, but along the reach and have their docks out there. This is what I kept looking for. I want to see a lobster pot so I can be near it on the way down through. We were pretty vigilant, having just lost 4 blades on a prop. That's a Piranha composite prop, by the way. The blades are individually replaceable. And normally you just break 1 blade, but I think we probably slid down along a piece of metal that was used as the anchor for an old mooring, because there was red paint on all 4 of the blades. And it barely registered. The boat hardly, just felt like a little teeny bump, and the boat was still running. Turned it off, pulled it up, and all 4 blades are gone, so I suspect we slid right along a piece of metal and it just sheared off each blade as it turned. You can see the opening down here. That's where we're headed before we can turn up and then go back into Harpswell Sound. Really just beautiful day. And we're getting closer. We were hoping that we would have the entire trip on video, but it turned out the battery on the GoPro didn't hold up as well as we hoped it would. So now we're at the end of the reach. What we're doing is turning up, going around, that might be Uncle Zeke, and we're going back into Harpswell Sound, and then we're going to turn down and come back into Gunpoint. Harpswell Sound looks like a river when you're on it, but it isn't. It's just it's a sound, so it's all salt water all the way up. This was actually another really beautiful part. You can see the water's still quite flat even though it's later in the day. I don't know if you can hear that music. I'm doing the music as well, but it's fairly low. Beautiful Irish fiddle music that David put on this video when he produced it. Here we are at Gunpoint now. We have to make a left turn, go right toward those cliffs, make a nice tight turn to the right. And we're going to have cliffs on this side, or ledges on this side. Well, it kind of is a cliff. And ledges on the other side as well. We're going right through that opening here. You wouldn't bring a sailboat through there with a keel on it, but a lot of relatively deep draft boats go through here pretty regularly. A lot of lobster boats do. There's really plenty of water. You do have to watch a little bit for rocks that are on one side or the other. Just kind of stay down the middle. You notice right up here, I have my antenna down so that I don't snap it off when I go under these bridges. I'm going to have one more bridge after this that I go under. Gunpoint though, really fun. I just get a big kick out of taking the boat down through a narrow passage like that. One thing about this Maritime, it's a pretty soft boat, probably soft riding boat, especially for a skiff. It's flat in the back, but it's got a V in the front. So even when it's choppy, it actually rides better than a lot of other skiffs do. It's also a pretty dry boat. Not that you can't make it pound, you can if you have a real chop and you decide you're going to go really fast. But it's a very nice boat. It's often used, a boat that's often used by working, well, even for lobstermen, they'll use it to pull traps, but urchin divers, in fact I bought it from an urchin diver, and other people who will use it as a working boat. It's a really nice platform, quite stable. One of the things I like about it is you make a sharp turn and it slides a little bit, so you're not as likely to throw someone off the boat by trying to avoid something in a hurry. I don't know what I was pointing at there. There's a dock down here on the left. I don't think it was in. Kind of a tough place to have a dock because it's a little pretty steep coming down, and then going down to the dock from the top of the cliff there, or the ledge, be a little steep. We're going down to the Gunpoint Cove. Now we're out of Gunpoint Cove and we're headed down through Will's Gut. We've got a couple of day marks. And this is a place where the day marks are not exactly at the edge of the rock. You've got to be really careful you don't hug either side when you go through that opening. So we came through, and you can see the lobster boat ahead of us, so there's plenty of water here. In fact, I believe there's about 30 feet of water when you come down through the middle of that. But that's the cribbed work bridge, and it's all laid up dry. It's all granite. They rebuilt it not long ago, and there was some concern that the granite might be replaced, but it was not. Instead, they rebuilt the surface, left the granite in place. They might have done a few repairs, but it was designed this way so water can flow through it back and forth, because here's another place where when the tide's running, it can be pretty exciting in here as well. Again, we were at near low tide, so it wasn't a big deal for us. Now we're about to go back into Harpswell Sound. On the left you have Cook's Lobster House. Can't really see it over there. Do I turn down there or not? David mounted the GoPro right on the rail in front of my center console. Yeah, you can see it over there on the left. And we're staying in the channel because you had better stay in the channel down through here, especially if you're there at low tide. Now this is the place where people get in trouble sometimes because it looks like you can drive right up through here, but there's a ledge that comes from here all the way across and then re-emerges. So instead you turn down and go around the ledge. We're in Parts Harbor now. I'm going to grab a mooring. Dave is obviously at the helm. Grabbing mooring so we can have lunch. And I will say that's a mooring for the Dolphin restaurant. Dolphin's a great restaurant. I'd love to go there. You have a dock you can dock on as well. But this is one of their moorings. It was vacant, so we grabbed it just to sit and have lunch. For the first time in our long, decades-long history of being on Casco Bay, neither David and I had ever been asked to leave a mooring before, and this was the first time. Somebody came out from the Dolphin Marina and asked us to leave because it was their mooring, unless we were planning on eating at the Dolphin Marina. I still go back because it's a great marina and I love it, and I love the food. But I was a little surprised that we were asked to leave. However, we weren't asked to leave until we'd gotten done eating lunch, so it all worked out. One of my favorite ways to eat lunch, just grab a mooring and drop an anchor and just sit there. And if David and I hadn't had so much to do, I probably would have put my head back down and taken a nap. Now we're actually done with that rest of the trip, and we're going between Pumpkin Knob and Great Diamond. This was the original plan right here. Stop this. That was the original plan, and we did almost all of it, but the thing we didn't do is go up the rivers. So I eliminated those, just didn't feel like it when we got done. So we just kind of cut across here and then came back. I think I'll go back and do it again sometime and do every single thing and see if I can find somebody who's interested in going with me. And David Pratt, Jack got a big kick out of calling this Pratt Abbott production because he and I worked together in the same building, and people just frequently made the cleaning company joke. Those of you that aren't from Maine, and I know most of the people that I have as subscribers are not, Pratt Abbott is a big cleaning company, like a dry cleaning company. Anyway, that's the Pratt Abbott Productions. I think that's it. I have to say it's one of my favorite places to be on the water, Casco Bay, and I think you can probably see why. Maybe someday I'll go up to Penobscot Bay, which is another one of my favorites. And one thing about having a boat the size of mine is you can trailer it places and then stick it in the water. Hope you enjoyed that.